title that I had at that time was Director of Women's Activities. I still kind of smile when I say it because it was pretty clear to me that Director of Women's Activities was going to include whatever it was that women were going to be involved in, probably all the things outside the classroom.
When your classes are over for the day, you will have some time for sports. There is no overemphasis on athletics at Yale. But average interest in some sport is considered part of a liberal education and an important item in a man's well-being.
It was not until I went to Yale that, and went into the athletic department my freshman year and said, where do I sign up for the field hockey team? And they looked at me like I was from Mars. They said, what? You know, they couldn't, they really had no idea what I was talking about. I think they thought I meant ice hockey. I mean, they just didn't know. And they said, well, we don't have that. And I guess in retrospect, it's a little bit understandable. They went into the coeducation thing very quickly, and they had to make a lot of plans for a lot of things. They just forgot, or because most of America didn't really think sports were that important to girls, they just didn't think sports were that important either. But I did, and I found a lot of other girls in freshman year who did. And so we got these sports teams started.
It was very important to the women very early on that they should have varsity sports. You realize that we were starting a program, a little small program, and it was existing next to men's programs that had been functioning for 120 years. The administration position was, we are not going to create some structure that has 5 teams or 8 teams or however many teams you want before we know that we have people who want to do those things. And that's a perfectly valid assumption, I think.
So I went out for cheerleading, both so I could go to the games and because it was a fun activity. Now, because Yale had always been male, they didn't picture women with pom-poms as cheerleaders. And in fact, the Yale cheerleaders at that time were mostly entertainers and gymnasts. And the Y dive, which I presume is still one of the biggest tricks, was not something that they really could picture women doing. But they did decide that about 4 women would add to the squad's look, and that that's what they would do, is add on about 4 women and then figure out what they were going to do with them.
It was just a lack of seriousness, a lack of taking us seriously. I think they just thought that this was some little oddity that would pass. In the beginning, I think they were just kind of indulging me and the group of girls who wanted to do this. And the field that they gave us was a parking lot during the football games on Saturdays. It was parking lot A, I still remember. So when we would come back out on Monday mornings, it would be covered with charcoal briquettes and beer cans and leftover stuff from people tailgating. I mean, we'd have to just spend half an hour picking all this stuff off the field before we could even run around on it.
It was really necessary to give women, A, chance to be together, B, a chance to represent the university. And it was the opportunity that was available to men. Indeed, men athletes were recruited, and they were in organized programs, and they had a chance to have this identity.
And some of the men who were athletes grudgingly and slowly came to respect us, I think, and to realize, hey, she's just as serious about this as I am about my sport.
Women had to prove that they were serious about basketball or gymnastics or fencing or whatever. The burden was on them, and indeed people can say, well, you know, they should have simply earned that. I don't know. I don't think that that's such a bad thing to have to do. They certainly went through some trying times, certainly times that they thought were trying.
The Yale Daily News wouldn't cover our games. And when I went to ask them about it, they said the reason was that none of the boys on the sports, all the sports staff were guys. None of them wanted to cover a girls' sport. None of them knew anything about it. And they were too busy covering football and basketball. So I said, that's not right, and you can't do that, and I will do it. If you can't get anyone else to do it, I will do it. But I can't cover field hockey because I'm the captain. I mean, that would be a bit of a conflict of interest. So they did send a woman on the staff who was healing the Daily News but was not interested in sports out to cover all the home field hockey games, and she didn't know what she was writing about, but she got it done. And I covered all the other stuff. I just wanted to see our games written up in the paper like anybody else's.